is that feeling of, if I look at them right now, they're going to lean in. So you do everything you possibly can to not look at them. And it's incredibly uncomfortable. You find the paint on the walls, the lampshades, you find everything so much more interesting than you did 5 seconds ago. But in expecting this, I kind of like lean back and then I look at him. So I've created more distance and he's like so much closer. As I've done this, he's like here. And again, I just kind of look at him and I go, you know, I'm really tired. I really, really need to get some sleep. To which he goes, oh, yeah, of course. You know, no problem at all. Let me just get out of your hair, you know, let you sleep. And he starts walking away and he doesn't even make it 5 steps before he looks back at me and just stares at me. And I kind of look up and I go, are you okay? Can I help you? He makes it 5 steps. And starts to stare at me, and I'm looking at him and I'm going like, are you okay? Can I help you? And he just kind of goes, what was it? It was like, I just wanted to look at you again. It was something along the lines of that. I can't remember word for word. Essentially it was along the lines of, oh, I just needed to look at you again. And then I'm like, okay, right? And then he starts to walk out and he goes, good night. And I'm like, night. And I was like, what just happened? What just happened that made him think that wasn't a weird thing to do? Like, what? He's just looked back at me and gone, good night. Fingers and all. I'm just like, this is so bizarre. Yeah, so after a lot of like touches on my legs and generally being really inappropriate with grabbing me, and the whole like grabbing my face and turning it this way, grabbing my wrists and throwing me around, grabbing my legs and throwing them around, it went through like that the whole shoot. I actually disassociated a lot. I have a lot of trauma with being touched inappropriately, and looking back on it, I'd have been a lot more brutal. However, there is an element of, he didn't respect no. I kind of want to state this a few times. He was bigger than me. I was in place I didn't know. I wasn't able to communicate with anybody. Everyone around him saw this behaviour as normal. He's actually made a documentary about his behaviour and then got other people to comment on it, saying about how it's a creative process. He's creatively moulding his models into like a piece of art. Like they were just talking about like moulding these girls into the shape that he wanted them to be. He was talking about them like clay. And I'm like, we're not clay. We are a collaborative partner. You can tell us what you want us to do and we will help you get wherever you want your vision to go. But we are not things. We're not things to play with. We are not dolls. We are not things to have a power trip over. It just doesn't, you don't need to. I kept saying no. I kept saying, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want to do this. I kept trying to laugh off his comments. I kept trying to laugh off the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness, the like, I really don't want to do that. Please don't I kept trying to make jokes. He wouldn't listen to no. I was not safe. There was an element of, I had to go along with it to a certain point to actually just get out of there relatively unharmed. I didn't know how far he would go and I didn't know how angry I'd make him. Instagram isn't liking my stories anymore. They are struggling to load. Yeah, he scared me. He scared me a lot. I was dissociated for the majority. I have a lot of trauma surrounding being, you know, grabbed and physically harmed and whatever. And I just had to be careful. I thought someone there would have helped me. Apparently it's normal behaviour from him because no one's found it odd. And yeah, it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. And I know that I got away with far less than a lot of the other girls that have come across him. Some have had no experience with any of this. But the thing with photographers like this is they play both sides. in playing both sides, you get some models that go, oh, I've had no experience with him like that. It's absolutely fine, you know, I don't believe you. Like, I was fine, so you must be telling lies. You know, he's a big photographer, why would he ever do that? And it's not until multiple people start going, well, I had an experience like that, well, I had that happen, that people start to go, oh, maybe. But if you leave enough models with good experiences, where they can then vouch for you, it becomes, you know, who's telling lies? Neither of them. The answer is neither of them. The answer is that he's actually just, you know, playing both sides, and he's making people fight over him being a good guy, a nice guy. And he's not. Not in my experience, anyway. And not in the girls who had to report him experience. Now, I was naive. I'm usually very vigorous with checking out who my photographers are, doing my research, making sure I'm with somebody safe. I didn't do that with this. I got excited because he was a big name. I was thinking, oh my God, he could potentially put my career somewhere further. I got excited. And I was tired. And I didn't do my research. I should have. I really, really should have. But I didn't. And that's my mistake. I got ahead of myself and I didn't look. And I realised I hadn't looked. So I had a look while I was in the airport before going to Italy. I then landed, and that's when I saw, oh, someone's charged him for sexual assault. Somebody's actually had something happen, and they've pressed charges. Oh, by that point it was too late, and I had all of this stuff happen. On my very last shoot with him, while we were wrapping up, we'd finished, and he said, he came over, he gave me a hug, he then picked me up and swung me so my legs dangled side to side, which was humiliating. And he said, who am I gonna play with now? Who's gonna be my plaything? I was like, okay, great, wow, okay. So at the very end, I said, right, here's my hours, here's everything that I've done, here's my timesheet. I've kept track of how long my breaks were, I've kept track of how long my lunches were, kept track of from the moment we started, from the moment to the moment we end. And he went, oh no, I'm not paying you like that. No, I'm not paying you hourly. That's not how I do things. I said, well, you said this was paid. And he went, no, not like that. He said, I give all of my girls a fixed rate. That rate was probably half of what he owed me. And at this point, I just went, you know what? Fine. I don't care. I just want to leave. And I took it. However, his deal was, I'm going to give you this because I'm going to sell my magazine, Magnifique. I'm going to sell my magazine and I'm going to give you a cut of every purchase made for this magazine. I sell loads of them. You'll get so much more money from that. Hell do I. I think there have been 2 or 3 purchases. He sells it for a lot of money. Like, I wouldn't pay that much for a magazine. He sells it for a lot of money. If someone buys it for £150, call it, because I can't remember how much it is, I get maybe £7, £8 of that 150. Not only was that his deal, it took me 3 months, no, probably closer to 6 months of constantly pestering him and his poor assistant trying to get paid. Like, she seemed lovely. She was as helpful as she could possibly have been. But at the end of the day, he was the one that had to pay me. And because he was like, I do business through my assistant, bless her, I had to keep pestering her. I kept having to message her and say, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm just sending you another nudge. Here's my invoice. Again, I still really need you to pay me what you owe me. And I felt so bad because at the end of the day, she's not the one that shot with me. She's not the one that was paying me. She didn't handle the bank accounts. And I just had to keep pestering and pestering and pestering. And he wasn't doing it. Eventually, I wore him down and he got so sick of me that he eventually paid me. I just said, look, all you got to do is pay me and you won't hear from me again. He eventually paid me. Now, I'm aware that I have done a lot of shit talking through this. I have kept it completely factual. I have not done anything to try and actively slander his name. I have just told my story. I have just said what happened to me and my experience in shooting with him. He is blocked on my account. I don't have him on here. If he for some reason sees this, I'm not trying to do defamation. I am purely sharing my experience. And if you didn't want it to happen, you shouldn't have done it. I'm sorry. But it's like, I'm so sick and tired of seeing people go and shoot with him and not knowing what he's like. If you know what he's like and you still choose to shoot with him, completely up to you. Protect yourself though. Be aware of what you're going into. If you don't know, fucking stay clear. Seriously, he is... I really don't know how far he's willing to go. I don't know how far, how dangerous he is. I know that he is obsessed with himself, and I know that he has no care for the models he works with. He has no regard for the safety or for the comfort of his models. He picks and chooses who he does it with. From my understanding, he tends to work with quite young, very especially inexperienced models. He works with girls who are pliable and who are willing to get further and doesn't matter what it takes to get there. Again, if you want to work with him, I will never judge you for it. But as long as you know what you're doing, that's fine. If you don't know what you're doing, I feel very sorry for you and I wish you the best of luck. But that's my story.